You're probably thinking right now at this moment, hey, this isn't a Christmas episode. What does this have to do with Christmas? Well, look at my hat. This is now a Christmas episode. Anyways, I had this episode for quite some time and it's been in development for quite a considerable amount of time, mostly due to a lot of setbacks and a lot of delays regarding usually personal stuff, and pretty much a lot of procrastination and all that. But besides the fact, this is the Christmas episode, I may as well provide the audience what they want. It is the season of giving. Give them what they want. Anyways, enjoy this episode and we'll be talking about some pretty obscure stuff that you've probably never seen in your life. You know, if you were to ask someone today, where do you watch Tokusatsu? And they'll probably point you in the right direction. Sometimes they'll just tell you to look it up on Google because they're mostly reluctant that they're gonna get a Toei takedown or something like that. Anyways, that's really not what we're here to talk about. We're gonna talk about how do you watch your Tokusatsu? And that's a very strange question to ask because most of the time people are just gonna start watching it on their computers because everyone has a computer, everyone has a phone. You can probably access Tokusatsu with a touch of a button. Back in the days, within the 2000s and the 1990s, particularly the 1990s, most people didn't even have computers. They mostly had access to basically what is essentially VHS or Laserdisc. Sure, nowadays you have your DVD sets, which are very commonly available, sometimes not available in your specific region, but that doesn't really matter. As long as you can get a multi-region player, it should be fine. The 90s is almost kind of this Wild West era, mostly because the medium wasn't really accessible. DVD came around 1996 and they weren't really making DVDs of Tokusatsu until like the late 2000s. At least, they won't make them in full force. Most of them were mostly being released very slowly and mostly during late into its life. A lot of shows basically became available on DVD5 as a result of mostly popular demand, and some of the Laserdisc box sets basically become more scarce and diminishing. As soon as the new format comes out, it pretty much becomes obsolete. Back in the day, people would usually use like storybooks to basically tell their stories or see what was happening in the new series, even if they didn't have anything like a VCR or anything like that. Sometimes you'll be lucky, you'll probably buy the VHS sets of some of the shows, which some of them aren't available in VHS, but it's an example. Well, what if I told you you could watch Tokusatsu on your computer in 1995? Oh yeah, you could do that.
Yeah, you're probably surprised as I am. Tokusatsu on compact disc? This idea isn't really new, but fret not, these are the most interesting pieces of software I have interacted with. Just for the idea of questioning what's the point of this, which is very easily answered in the modern day sense. Most households at least had a VCR or Laserdisc player. Very few computers had optical disc drives installed to their machines, and very few were capable of running video codecs onto their machines with the appropriate software and video cards to go with it. Sound cards may have not been an issue by the late 1990s, unless you want to use that PC speaker on the motherboard. I don't know why you want to. Adding insult to injury, most computers, whether they were IBM compatible office machines or home computers, were still running on DOS as their front-end operating system of choice. Windows and Macintosh never really cemented to consumers and workplaces perhaps very late into the 1990s. Most of the complaints came from how resource heavy the operating systems have been when they were running software like games. Issues like constant slowdown and frame drops were no secret, and are still an issue to this day. Hero Club was a result of Bandai's former video label, Super Video Series, pretty much going belly up. Hero Club later succeeded employing the same business model that Bandai had formerly used to advertise their videotapes. Sold them in toy shops at an extremely discounted price point. Bandai outsourced the editing to Toei Company, they would then release it under the Bandai label. A few years later, the ownership of the business model transitioned back to Toei, giving them full reign and rebranding the SVS label to Hero Club. Videotapes weren't a cheap medium to collect. It was much more robust to rent out a videotape than it was to purchase one for the home. If you look at the prices, holy shit, you won't be feeding yourself for an entire week. The average Hero Club tape consists of a clip show. The following contents are based on specific subject like vehicles, abilities, or recaps of a 50-episode show condensed into 30 minutes or less. Remember, these were sold in toy shops. The whole aim of this label was to entice kids into tricking their parents into buying multiple tapes that didn't cost very much. Much of the VHS releases consist of 4 to 5 episodes on a single tape. at a price that doesn't really warrant the parents' interest unless they were an otaku. So when releasing the business model as computer software, now that's something that would definitely attract the crowd. Except that you go into Yahoo Japan auctions, they are strangely cheap. Probably nobody wants them. We may never know. When looking to these results into a somewhat convoluted history with tech-heavy jargon that most of my viewers may have trouble comprehending to, and so I do apologize I didn't look into the technological history too much for this feature. Interestingly, this uses QuickTime to run the video codecs through the software built in Macromedia, which was not uncommon to see on most software utilizing video features. And as a result, this software was advertised first and foremost for Macintosh computers. Supplementary that Windows 3.1 and Windows 95 are capable of running the software. Thankfully, installations for the correct versions of QuickTime are supplied on the disk, that being the only installation required. Speaking of which, I only bothered to get working on a Windows 98 virtual machine. Oh god, I miss that sound dearly. So when you boot it up, you are greeted with an in-your-face introduction to the Digital Hero Club. Depending on the version, you are greeted with the following: a selection of series to watch, photo galleries, and a bonus feature that only exists on specific versions we are reviewing currently. Now of course the video codecs, you're not getting the greatest quality in the world, but think about the fact that you're watching this on this. With these discs you seem to get 2 for the price of 1, as there's 2 episodes on each show, counting up to the total of 4 episodes per disc. So rather than talk about the kind of content you're seeing because that's boring, let's explore what this has to offer. There is no denying that this is a glorified QuickTime player installed into this. All the standard media player features are right there. Chapter forwards and backwards, fast forward and rewind, start and pause. You really can't complain too much. I must admit, I had the Media Player Classic installed on my first Windows XP computer. I usually dick around with it, loading several episodes of The Simpsons, and using the playback tricks to fasten the footage or slow it the fuck down for my own personal enjoyment. I was essentially making a YouTube poop without any complicated editing software. Because of this, these playback features take me back a lot. And it's quite demonic when you play the footage backwards. Of course, when you're done, you can exit the player and take a gaze through the photo gallery. I would love to have these ripped from the software, except you really can't. Not really. This only works with the second version. You can extract the existing BMPs and save them, but that's only like 30% of the images you can gather. Otherwise, if you know your Japanese, it's worth reading into some of the descriptions. But what takes the cake is the bonus board game on the third release. A Car Ranger board game! That's right, just after Tsufami Turbo and Sega Pico, there exists a third Car Ranger game. That is an extremely basic board game. It's boring if you're just playing it by yourself. I really recommend a friend to play with you. Or another 4 people if you're actually that lucky. Yay! Undeniably, this is one of the strangest artifacts I have the pleasure of getting to work on a virtual machine. Sure, it's obsolete, but it's the fun kind of obsolete, like VHS, video game consoles, and computers. You just don't get stuff like this nowadays. Now, I just don't know how to end this video.